grumpy old necrophile. I love him. I've also translated Baudelaire, luckily, with different poems. I'm doing a Bachelor of Arts in Creative Writing, and I focused one of my final assignments last year on necrophilia in Baudelaire's poetry. And the two poems I analysed in that essay were The Phantom and The Metamorphosis of the Vampire. And I studied the James McGowan translations from the Oxford World Classics edition, but I felt like they didn't capture something that was in the French text, so I just did my own translations of them. I'm going to start with The Phantom. It's actually a really long poem, four parts. I only translated the first part. It's absolutely my favourite Baudelaire poem. It's really beautiful. So here's my translation of it. A Phantom, Part 1, Darkness. In the caves of inconsolable sadness, where destiny has already abandoned me, where never enter rosy, joyful rays of light, alone with the gloomy hostess, night, like a painter whom a mocking god condemns to paint alas in darkness. I'll cook with a funeral appetite and boil and eat my own heart out. And every now and then there shines and lays down in spectrum of grace and splendour, in her dreamlike oriental allure, reaching for her full grandeur, I recognize my beautiful visitor. It is she, black and thoroughly illuminated. That poem is about the speaker experiencing a phantom of a deceased lover to return to him, and the first part, Darkness, is just the part where he feels alone in that darkness, and then in 4 stages the phantom becomes more concrete and the imagery and the language become more hopeful. Baudelaire is interesting in the sense that his poetry is very dark, but it's also very beautiful and hopeful. And what comes to the necrophilia theme, Baudelaire doesn't seem to have this sort of. He writes a lot about dead women, but it's not so much as, you know, they're just dead and rotting corpses. But there's also something very alive about those dead women. For example, in The Phantom. The Phantom is alive in a sense because she becomes more concrete, and then there's also in The Metamorphosis of the Vampire. A vampire is kind of dead, and then, well, I won't spoil what happens to the vampire, but she's also much more alive than some living woman could be. And this is my translation of that poem, The Vampire's Transformation. However, there she lay, with a mouth of strawberry red. Like a tortured snake she twisted on the bed, kneaded the corset bones to lift her bust, and let flow these very words oozing musk. My lips are soft and moist, and I know well how to leave moral conscience on the bottom of the bed. I dry all sad tears on my body so sublime, I'll make an old man laugh once more just like a child. For those who see me naked with their own eyes, I replace the moon, the sun, the stars, and all the skies. I am a scholar of seductive arts, my dear. I suffocate men in my arms well-feared. In the abandon of letting them bite my breast, I take the shy and the brave and all the rest. Rebounding passion on my mattresses, even impotence can make a move for me. Once she had finished feasting on my marrow, I languidly reached over towards her to lovingly kiss, but saw nothing but a bag of skin and bones full of pus. I closed my eyes, terror took over me. When daylight came, I saw with clarity that next to me lay not the flawless doll who seemed to have filled herself with my blood, but fearfully trembling skeletal debris, resounding a windcock's chilly creak, or a sign hung up on an iron post, swinging in the wind in winter frost. yeah, Baudelaire's poetry has had a very, very big impact on me, and partly because it's so dark. I think I have a tendency towards melancholy as a personality type, and sometimes just inspiring and happy poetry just doesn't resonate with me. You know, a bit like if you have a really bad hangover, then you want to eat something really greasy and salty and impure for breakfast because your body doesn't resonate with healthy food. And I think it's the same with poetry. If you're feeling melancholy, then you have to read dark poetry because that resonates with your soul. And so I wrote a sonnet called To Baudelaire. Next door, the cellist's dark and mournful notes vibrate beneath my feet like city crowds of rainy Paris nights, and she evokes a gloomy air of low bass notes out loud. I close my eyes to hear how I adore this music. A thing invades my sight. Mistaken, I think it was not there before, but had just never seen it in such light. Whenever luminous joy comes too near and makes my melancholy spirits ache, I call to my embrace a man who wears all black to lend my eyes a welcome break. So, when daylight keeps me blind and pained, he holds me close in pleasant partial shade. Very much enjoy the rest of the French poetry translation.